They didn't ask me what I saw. They told me what I did. But no one asked the gods what they thought. The night before the chaos, the moon hung low and yellow like a dying lantern. It hovered above a Maif village, casting eerie shadows on the mud huts and stirring the leaves of the Ogilasai trees. The air was heavy with silence, the kind that sits too long on your chest and makes you listen to your heartbeat. I was in my workshop that night, carving a stool for Mom and Wakigo, my grandmother. The lantern beside me flickered, and I could barely make out the patterns I was chiseling. Still, my hands moved with the memory of the wood, the same way a flute remembers the tune even when the player forgets. Then the wind shifted. At first it was a breeze. Then it was a voice. A whisper, sharp, sudden, like a cut from a paper-thin blade. I paused, chisel midair. It came again. A low hum. A chant, almost faint, like a funeral song buried in the wind. I stepped out of the shed, wiping sweat from my forehead. That was when I noticed the shrine light had gone out. The Okbru Ek shrine, sacred ground, where the mask of the gods slept all year except during the Ek festival, stood about 2 compounds away from mine. From where I stood, the faint glow of the shrine's eternal lamp had vanished. I squinted into the dark. And then I saw it, no light, no movement, just darkness. Cold, watching darkness. Something inside me turned. Not fear. Not yet. Just an awareness. A warning. I told myself it was nothing. I went back inside. I wish I hadn't. The following morning started like any other. Roosters crowing as if trying to tear holes in the morning mist, women clanging pots, children crying over stubborn hair being threaded into braids. I had just bathed from the clay basin outside and was brushing my teeth with a chewed stick when the first scream came. It wasn't a scream of pain. It was a scream of disbelief, followed by another, and then another. And suddenly, all of a Maif was trembling with one name on their lips. The mask is gone. The gods have been desecrated. Who did this? Who has brought a curse upon us? The shrine has been violated. My heart seized. I dropped the stick and wiped my mouth. Before I could move, my grandmother rushed out of the hut, tying her wrapper tighter, her eyes sharp as thorns. "Obinna," she said, voice steady, "stay inside. Don't go anywhere." "Mama, what's happening?" I said, "Stay inside. Now." She turned and rushed out before I could speak again. But how could I stay inside? The voices were rising, feet were pounding. The shrine bell, a bell meant to summon the gods, was ringing wildly. Not in reverence. In panic. In rage. I followed the sound. By the time I reached the shrine compound, a crowd had gathered. Chief Okuri stood in the center, surrounded by elders and the Odogwu priest, who looked older than death and twice as silent. The priest's staff was planted into the earth like a grave marker. His eyes, pale and unmoving, were fixed on the empty space inside the shrine. And the mask, the sacred Ek mask, was gone. For those who don't understand, the Ek mask isn't just wood and feathers. It's our covenant with the spirit world. It's the face of our ancestors. No one touches it except the shrine priest. No one removes it. Not even the chief dares enter the inner room without fasting for 7 days and bathing in bitter herbs. To touch it was not just theft. It was suicide. It was rebellion against the gods. Then I heard it. "Obinna was there last night," someone said behind me. I turned. It was Yugachukwu, Ezekiel's cousin. He was standing with folded arms, eyes dancing with something I couldn't place. "I saw him walking past the shrine," he said. "Late. Very late. Alone." People turned toward me. "No," I said, raising my hands. "Yes, I passed by. My workshop is close." But I didn't enter. Why would I? Auntie Masoma's sharp voice cut through the air. "Isn't it you that always carves masks? Maybe you wanted to touch the real thing." "Ah. And you think carving gives me permission to steal from the gods?" I snapped before catching myself. Bad move. The crowd murmured. Some gasped. Chief Okuri raised his hand, and silence followed. "Obinna," the chief said, slow and measured. "Did you see anything strange last night?" I paused. Thought of the wind, the whisper, the extinguished light, the chill that wrapped itself around my bones. "Yes," I said. "The shrine light was out. I thought it was strange." The chief's eyes narrowed. "And you did nothing?" I didn't know it meant the mask was gone. I didn't think. "You didn't think," he repeated. "Yet you, of all people, are closest to the shrine. Your workshop faces it. Your grandmother has served the council for years. And you didn't think." "I didn't." Odogwu priest finally spoke. His voice was gravel over stone. "The spirits do not care for excuses. They didn't touch me that day. They didn't drag me through the mud. Not yet. But I saw the doubt plant itself like a seed in every eye that met mine. And I saw Ezekiel step from the crowd, gently push through the people, and come stand beside me. He put a hand on my shoulder. "Don't worry," he said, loud enough for all to hear. "If you're innocent, it will be known. The gods don't sleep." I should have known then. The devil doesn't wear horns. He smiles. Later that day, I sat outside our compound, staring at the cracked wall of the hut. My grandmother didn't say a word. She just prepared yam porridge and placed it beside me. I didn't touch it. Instead, I asked the question that had been burning my throat since morning. "Mama, do you think I did it?" She turned to me slowly. "Obinna, if a river forgets where it flows from, it becomes mud. I raised you. I know you." That should have comforted me. It didn't, because knowing me wasn't enough. A maeve had already begun whispering, and whispers become knives when carried by the wrong wind. 3 days later, they found the wooden base of the Ek mask buried under a pile of old wood in my workshop. My voice cracked when they dragged it out. "That's not mine," I cried. "I didn't put it there." But it didn't matter. The crowd returned, louder now. Fingers pointed. Even children called me thief. The days blurred together after that. The village, once so familiar, now felt like a strange place. It was as though I had stepped into a different world where the earth itself had turned against me. I could no longer walk through a maeve without feeling the weight of eyes upon me. People muttered behind their doors when I passed. The children who once greeted me with excited grins now kept their distance, glancing at me as though I were some wild animal they didn't quite understand. I couldn't understand it either. I had always kept to myself. I worked in silence. My craft was the only thing that kept me sane. But now, all I had was the empty space where my reputation used to be. I wasn't just a thief in their eyes. I was a danger. A curse. Ezekiel, of course, was there for all of it. He was my best friend, my brother, my childhood companion. But now, he had become the village's golden child. People saw him as the steady hand, the calm presence, the one who knew things would work out. He would visit me occasionally, whispering words of comfort that sounded more like rehearsed lines than genuine empathy. "Don't worry, Obinna. These things take time to clear up. The truth will always come out. The gods know who's innocent." It was strange how much his words echoed the ones I had heard from the chief that morning, almost as though they were scripted, as though he was playing a part. On the 4th day after the accusation, the village council convened again. The air was thick with tension as the elders gathered in the community center, an old, crumbling structure that had once been a place of wisdom but now felt like a court of judgment. I was called to stand before them. "I swear I didn't take the mask," I shouted, the words raw in my throat. My hands trembled as I stood there, under the harsh light of the midday sun. I don't know who did it, but it wasn't me. But the evidence was damning. The mask's wooden base found in my workshop, my proximity to the shrine, my sudden, unexplained absences the night it disappeared. "And what are the carved figures you've been working on, Obinna?" Chief Okri asked, his voice cold and final. "They resemble the sacred Ek designs. Did you think no one would notice?" I didn't answer. There was nothing to say. They had already made up their minds. The truth was irrelevant now. What mattered was what they believed. That evening, I sat alone at the far edge of the village, under the wide branches of an old mango tree. The sunset painted the sky in shades of crimson and gold, but all I saw was darkness. The guilt, the suspicion, the weight of my village's anger hung heavy in the air, thicker than the evening fog. I had always believed in the gods. I had grown up on stories of their wisdom, their protection, their judgment. But in that moment, I felt nothing but betrayal. Why had they abandoned me? It was then that I heard a soft voice behind me. Obinna. I didn't turn around. I already knew who it was. Ezekiel's voice, calm, soothing, always there when I needed him. I know you didn't do this, he said, sitting beside me, his voice steady despite the tension that crackled in the air. Then why are they doing this to me? I whispered, finally turning to look at him. My eyes were wet, but I refused to let the tears fall. I had no more tears left. Ezekiel reached out and placed a hand on my shoulder, his grip firm, yet strangely comforting. It's because you've become a threat, Obinna, he said softly. You've always been different, always been more gifted, more promising than the rest of us. You've made something of yourself, and that makes people scared. I looked at him, confusion and suspicion mingling in my chest. What do you mean? He smiled, but it was a tight, uncomfortable smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. You think this is about the mask, but it's not. It's about control, about power. And you've always been too good at everything you do. Even the gods noticed. But they'll take care of you. Trust me. His words felt hollow, like an echo bouncing off empty walls. The days passed, and though I was still allowed to live in the village, it was as if I had been erased from its fabric. People avoided speaking to me. The elders stopped asking for my help in their carvings, and the children no longer ran to me with their questions. I had become a pariah, a shadow of who I once was. But there was one thing I didn't give up: my desire to find the truth. Every night I sat by the shrine, not to worship but to watch, to wait, to understand. Something inside me refused to believe that I had been the one to steal the mask. I knew I was being set up, but by who and why? Then one evening, while the moon hung high and the village slept, I saw him. Ezekiel. He was at the shrine. I watched from the darkness, my heart pounding in my chest. He was moving with purpose, his silhouette blending into the shadows. For a moment, I thought I was seeing things. But no. There he was, standing by the sacred altar, his hand pressed to the stone, his eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. And then, in one fluid motion, he reached up and pulled something from the altar. My breath caught in my throat. He had taken the mask. It wasn't the gods who had abandoned me. It was Ezekiel. The next day, when I confronted him, he denied everything. What are you talking about, Obinna? He asked, his eyes wide with feigned innocence. I don't know what you mean. But I knew. I had seen the truth with my own eyes. And when the villagers came to me, demanding answers, accusing me of yet another lie, I stood tall. This time, I had the truth on my side. I didn't steal the mask, I said, my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. But I know who did. The crowd fell silent. I stepped forward, locking eyes with Ezekiel. The thief, I said, is standing right here. The truth, when it finally comes to light, is often far uglier than the lies that preceded it. When I spoke those words in front of the village, accusing Ezekiel of stealing the mask, it was as if I had thrown a stone into a calm lake. The ripples spread quickly, turning the quiet village into a frenzy. The people gasped, murmured, and looked at each other, confused, but deep down, I knew they were not ready to hear the truth. They had already made their judgment. To them, I was still the thief, the outcast. And yet, there I was, standing with my arms folded, my heart pounding in my chest, demanding justice. When I called Ezekiel out in front of everyone, his face twisted in an expression I couldn't quite read. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was something colder. Something darker. Obinna, you are making a grave mistake, he said, his voice calm. Too calm. You've let your fear and guilt blind you. He stepped forward, his presence towering over me. His once comforting presence now felt like a threat. The villagers watched closely, their eyes flickering between the two of us, waiting for one of us to crack. I didn't. I couldn't. I had made up my mind. The only mistake I've made, I said, trying to steady my voice, is not seeing it sooner. You betrayed me, Ezekiel. You betrayed this village. You took something sacred. Ezekiel's lips curled into a tight smile. Do you think they'll believe you over me? He asked, his words coated with poison. You are the one who has already been accused, Obinna. No one will listen to a man who has already been condemned. And just like that, I saw the truth of what he was. Ezekiel had never been my friend. He had never been the brother I thought he was. He was someone who had played me, manipulated me, and now he was trying to bury the truth beneath a mound of lies. I could feel the eyes of the villagers on me, but this time, it was different. Their judgment wasn't as swift as before. They were confused. Some of them exchanged glances, unsure of what to believe. They were questioning Ezekiel's sincerity. But the seed of doubt had already been planted, and it would take a lot more than my words to uproot it. Later that night, I sat alone by the shrine, watching the moonlight dance on the surface of the still waters. I couldn't shake the weight of everything that had happened. The village had already taken sides. Ezekiel's lies had poisoned the air, and no matter what I said now, I knew it wouldn't change the way they saw me. But I couldn't back down. I had seen Ezekiel at the shrine. I had witnessed him take the mask. But no one would believe me. No one would listen. The village's whispers had become too loud, and the elders were already looking for ways to silence me. The chief had sent for me earlier that evening, requesting that I come to the council hall the next day. I had no doubt what he wanted. He would offer me a way out, a chance to confess my wrongdoing and redeem myself. I knew better than to take it. As I sat there, lost in thought, I heard footsteps approaching. I looked up, startled. Standing before me was Mama Nwakigo, my grandmother. Her eyes were filled with concern, but there was a quiet strength in her gaze. She had always been a woman of few words, but when she spoke, her words carried the weight of generations. Obinna, she said softly, sitting beside me. I know what you're thinking, but you must not let your anger blind you. I met her gaze, but I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. My grandmother had always been my pillar of support. But now, even she seemed uncertain. I could feel the pressure mounting, like a storm cloud ready to burst. I'm not angry, Mama, I replied, my voice thick with emotion. I'm scared. Scared that no one will believe me. That I'll lose everything. You haven't lost anything yet, she said gently. But you must be careful, Obinna. The truth is powerful, but it is also dangerous. It can destroy you, if you're not careful. I don't care, I said fiercely. I can't live with this lie anymore. I'll expose Ezekiel for what he is. I'll make sure the truth comes out. Mama Nwakigo sighed, placing a hand on my shoulder. The truth is a double-edged sword, my child. It can heal, but it can also harm. Sometimes, the price of truth is too high to pay. The next morning, I stood before the council again. The elders were gathered in a circle, their faces grim. The air was thick with tension. The village was silent, waiting for the verdict. Chief Okri stood, his eyes fixed on me. Obinna, the council has heard your accusations against Ezekiel. We have listened to your claims, and we have considered the evidence. But there is one thing you must understand. Your actions have consequences. The mask is not just a symbol. It is the heart of our village. It is a sacred relic. Stealing it is an act of desecration. I stood tall, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't steal it, I said, my voice unwavering. Ezekiel did. I saw him with my own eyes. The chief's gaze never wavered. You have no proof of this, Obinna. Your word alone is not enough. I swallowed hard. Then why would he lie? Why would he betray us all? He is the one who took it. I swear it. There was a long pause, and the murmurs from the villagers grew louder. Chief Okri raised his hand, silencing the crowd. We will not act in haste, he said. We will investigate. But if you are found to be lying, Obinna, there will be severe consequences. That night, as the investigation unfolded, I found myself pacing the grounds outside my hut. I could hear the whispers of the village carrying on the wind, the accusations, the doubts, the fear. And through it all, I couldn't help but feel the weight of my own betrayal not only by Ezekiel, but by the village I had once called home. Then I saw him, Ezekiel. He stood at the edge of the village, watching me, his eyes cold and distant. For the first time, I saw him for what he truly was. No longer my best friend, no longer my brother, but a man driven by ambition, willing to sacrifice everything, including me, for his own gain. Do you think the village elders were too quick to judge Obinna? If you were Obinna, what would you have done when you saw Ezekiel sneaking back to the shrine? Can friendship survive betrayal like this? Why do you think the gods didn't expose the real thief immediately? What would you do if your best friend betrayed you like Ezekiel did? Do you think the truth will come out in part 2, or will Obinna suffer for something he didn't do? Would you forgive a friend who falsely allowed you to take the fall for their crime? Have you ever been wrongly accused like Obinna? Share your experience in the comments. Was Obinna truly innocent? Drop a comment below and type part 2 if you want to know what happened next. If this story gripped your heart like it did mine, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more powerful tales like this.